Hi there, my name is Alex Radzin and you are watching my channel. Here I am speaking about the software development. All my statements are based on common knowledge as well as my own personal experience. I am working as a software developer for almost 25 years. Today I want to speak about coding guidelines or coding conventions. Let's start from the definition. Coding guidelines or conventions are a set of rules that are recommended to use when we are coding a specific language. Why conventions are so important? Some people believe that we are coding for a computer that doesn't care whether our code is ugly or beautiful. In fact, from 40 to 80% of time, the programmer is spending not on developing the new code, but on maintenance and refactoring of the old one. And what is maintenance and refactoring? It is a process when programmer, human, is reading code that was written previously by himself or by other programmer and tries to understand it. The faster and easier he understands this code, the higher the quality of the product, the lower its complexity, and the easier the team work. Robert Martin, known as Uncle Bob, that has written famous book Clean Code, said that it's not difficult to write code that computer understands. The real skill is to write program that human understands. Very often I have objections like the following. I'm professional, I have a lot of years of experience, I have found my own tricks and conventions that help me to work and to be more productive. Everyone can work as he wants. I have always worked this way and will continue to work this way. Conventions are similar to laws, and laws are needed to regulate relationships among people. Robinson Crusoe didn't need any law because he was alone on island. Similarly, a programmer that wants to work without any conventions can probably be independent software vendor, but if he wants to be a part of team that is working on the same product, he should work according to well-known industrial standards. What is the source of conventions? Sometimes it is decision of experienced experts. Sometimes it's just tradition. And sometimes it is crowd wisdom. If, for example, a million people independently found the best way to use the digging stick, the chance that somebody can improve this way within a reasonable time is very low. The same is relevant for using the programming languages. Sometimes our personal preferences do not exactly match the common conventions. If our preferences do not conflict directly with industrial standards, it's not a problem to use them. Common practices are changing. Things that were relevant yesterday probably less relevant today and become wrong tomorrow. We should be always updated. Common practices are often based on already obsolete reasons. We should stop using such conventions. We should avoid adopting our habits that we got when programming one language to another language. Each language has its own conventions and we should work according to them. There are different types of conventions. When we are speaking about conventions, the first thing we are thinking about is the code formatting. The discussion between people that write left curly brace directly after the operator and those that prefer to move it to the beginning of the next line is as meaningless as the battle between Lilliputians from which side to break the egg. As we know, the problem of egg caused endless war between Lilliputians that was terminated by Gulliver. In our case, fortunately, this conflict doesn't cause wars and can be solved using conventions. The next topic where conventions are relevant is naming. Names are important. In fact, our code consists of reserved words of the language we are using, its syntax, and the names that we invent for our variables, functions, and classes. The better these names, the better our code. Let's take a look on trivial example of the same code written in Java and C#. In Java, we write left curly brace directly after the operator, and in C# move it to the beginning of the next line. In C#, names of the functions start with capital letter, and in Java with small letter. I am mostly coding Java, and Java standards are good for me. But if I start coding C#, I do not adopt my habits from Java to C#, but write code according to conventions used by C# programmers. There are conventions or best practices for using code of different operators of programming languages. Let's take a look on simple example. We have a for loop and some code that should be executed only if condition is true. This code can be implemented straightforward. For, if inside, and the code into the if. However, we can inverse the condition of if and say if not condition continue. That means go to the next iteration of the loop, and the code will be written directly after the if. Each version has its advantages and disadvantages. Conventions can help us to decide which one to use. Conventions are dynamic. In 1970, the C programming language was invented. At that time, people tended to shorten the names that they give to variables, classes, or functions. Sometimes names of variables consisted of only one letter. Many years passed since that, and Java programming language was invented. In Java, we typically use long identifier and do not shorten the English words. After many years, the Scala programming language appeared. Scala combines object-oriented and functional paradigms. When we write functional code, very often the meaning of variable is obvious from the surrounding code. So we can shorten the name of the variable without any damage to the code readability. During the last 10 or even more years, more and more teams use Agile development. Agile helps us to develop software when the requirements are changing all the time. This causes us to do refactoring very often. Once upon a time, we delivered new version every several months. Now we do it every week or sometimes several times a day. Nowadays, people do not work for the same company for many years. They move from project to project very often. This means that many teams have several new programmers every time. These new programmers should be introduced to the project as quickly as it is possible. There is no more code ownership. Each team member can access any code of the project. Many teams practice remote working, and the last year of COVID made remote working even more popular. Very often people that work on the same project are distributed worldwide. They live in different countries, different time zones, and speak different languages. All their communication is done via code. This communication is very difficult if the code is not written according to common standards. This slide contains icons of the most popular computer languages with hyperlinks to documents that describe coding conventions for this language. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you agree with me, put like. If you disagree, put dislike. Don't hesitate to write comments. Subscribe to my channel. I will do my best to make it interesting.